Public to come and pay their last tributes. The mortal remains of Ajit Pawar will be kept overnight, and then at 9 a.m. is when the funeral procession will begin. And at 11 a.m. is when you will see the last rites taking place in Baramati. I'll bring in Abhijit Karande for more details. He's joining us live from Baramati. Abhijit, a sea of grief in Baramati. It's been gripped by shock. Whilst people still in Baramati process what's happened to Ajit Pawar. But we understand all preparations have been made for a funeral tomorrow, which is going to see huge crowds.
Right now I'm at Vidya Pratishthan, where Ajit Pawar's mortal will be bring for Antim Darshan. We can see those two mandaps where Ajit Pawar's mortal will be placed, and people can take his final or Antim Darshan, and then they will proceed. So at least until 10 p.m. People from Baramati and across the state who are coming to the Vidya Pratishthan to take Antim Darshan of Ajit Pawar will be able to pay their respect to their leader. As of now, we can on the other side we can see those dumpers and those JCBs also there, which are preparing for the final rites, which will happen tomorrow at 11 a.m. Mostly union leaders from the BJP also coming to the Baramati to pay their respect to the leader Ajit Pawar. And on the other side, we can see the whole preparations are going on in full swing. Anytime soon, Ajit Pawar's mortal will be bring here from the medical college, where right now they are examining. Ajit Pawar's colleague and Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Devendra Fadnavis, and Deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Eknath Shinde, and Governor of Maharashtra also in Baramati.
Abhijit, is there any confirmation on whether the Prime Minister and Home Minister Amit Shah will also be there for the funeral? There are some reports that suggest that the Prime Minister will be making his way to Baramati tomorrow. Any confirmation on that?
So there is a huge buzz that Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah will come to this, come to take final darshan of Ajit Pawar, and they will attend the final rites of Ajit Pawar. Even Prime Minister Narendra Modi have spoken to Sharad Pawar in the early morning and taken and try to console him and his family also. But there is not an official confirmation as of now. No official tour has been declared by the state government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi or Home Minister Amit Shah. But except that, party leaders across the state and the center, they will come to pay their respect, as we know that Sharad Pawar is a national figure and they have very cordial relations with all party leaders, and this is a very big loss of Pawar family as well as NCP also, as well as state also. So they will definitely come to pay their final respect. And as we see that alongside Mandap, there are across party lines, all the state leaders of NCP, all the leaders from the Shiv Sena and other parties, they have come there to pay their final respect. So this is a huge loss of Baramati, huge loss of people of Baramati, huge loss of a state, and as well as Pawar family also, because there is a big question mark. Who will lead the NCP after Ajit Pawar?
Okay, Abhijit continues to get us those updates, and the family members are currently in Baramati. For them, you can only imagine what a difficult time this is. It must be so hard to process this news that Ajit Pawar is no more. They're currently at the Baramati hospital. We got heartbreaking images earlier of Supriya Sule and Sunetra Pawar, united, unfortunately, at this time by grief, by this tragedy that struck their family. They are currently at the Baramati hospital. Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis, Deputy Chief Minister Eknath Shinde are also there. They're with the family, personally with them in the Baramati hospital. Anytime now, the mortal remains of Ajit Pawar will be brought out of, in fact, the hospital and moved to the ground where Abhijit has been reporting from. And as we get you those updates, on the right there are images not from the plane crash site, but actually from the Baramati hospital. So we'll just correct that on our screens as well. And as we get those updates as well, we will connect with more of our reporters in Baramati to get you those updates. You see the crowds that have gathered there, waiting outside the hospital to pay their last respects as well to Ajit Pawar, a leader who's represented them for so many years, truly, truly loved in Baramati. I'll bring in Vidya also for the latest updates on the tributes that have poured in. And Vidya, a 3-day mourning that's been announced in Maharashtra. We understand that in several districts already, there's been a virtual shutdown to mourn the loss of their own, to mourn the loss of Ajit Pawar.
In fact, what we see is also in not just Baramati but in the entire Pune district. Many parts of it, people have closed down shops, markets are closed on their own volition. It's not been forced or anything, but people have done so and moved out to Baramati to pay their last respects. They know that they will be seeing Ajit Pawar, the mortal remains of him, for the last time, and that's one of the reasons why we see people moving in. All roads leading to Baramati are chock-a-block. It's difficult. The entire traffic is very slow. There's bumper-to-bumper traffic on that road where, people are heading towards Baramati because they know that they can have a last glimpse of their beloved leader. And of course, the entire incident per se was so shocking that it's still not seeped in. A lot of people kept asking, and of course there are conspiracy theories that have been floated, but then a lot of people really want to know what really happened. How did it really occur? Some incident like this. An accident of wherein Ajit Pawar was going to campaign for the Zilla Parishad elections. Remember, the state has perpetually been in elections since couple of months now, and since there were Zilla Parishad
and
elections,
I just want to focus on those questions. Vidya, you touched upon it, that there are all of these conspiracy theories doing the rounds. While we won't get into that because, that's something that has to be investigated, there are a couple of questions that we would like to put forth right now on what's being asked or what happened. First, about why there was no Mayday call. Is that an indication of exactly what happened, that the pilots thought all was well? Why was clearance given? Now, if the ATC gave clearance despite low visibility, it meant that they believed there was no problem whatsoever in the current weather conditions for the plane to land. In which case, what went wrong? Because you asked the first question of no Mayday call and the fact that clearance was given, it leads to more questions about why this plane crash even happened. Why didn't the crew respond to ATC landing clearance? The norm is once the clearance is given, there's non-stop communication that happens. Now, what the government has established here is that none of that happened. There was no back and forth. There was no communication. So did something go wrong technically? What really was the issue? Remember, the operator of this aircraft has maintained that it was an issue of either weather, of low visibility, or human error. We can't jump to those conclusions yet, because also what we have to highlight is that in 2023, the same jet, in fact, the Learjet, had in fact gone through a similar mishap in Mumbai. And so there have been questions about whether there were no lessons learned from that particular incident. Was this a tragedy, unfortunately, waiting to happen? The plane in question here, in which Ajit Pawar was traveling, was a 16-year-old chartered plane. Was this faulty? Was there some sort of a tech glitch? So far, if you look at the details that have been provided, this particular plane was airworthy in the sense it had its certification, all necessary regulations were done. The pilots too had got all of their fitness certificates done. They were licensed. All of this only leading to a bigger question of what went wrong if everything was fine. Was it weather? Was it poor visibility? Was it human error? Or was it killer technical negligence or a glitch? Now, these are the three issues essentially that everyone's asking, whether it was a problem of low visibility and despite that attempting a landing, were the pilots did they kind of miscomprehend what was happening, or was it a problem with the aircraft? Right now, the investigation is on. We know that the AAIB, which is a technical investigative body, is looking into what's happened. The government also is watching very, very closely with the Civil Aviation Minister, Ram Mohan Naidu, also in Baramati to understand what exactly happened. Now, I just want to focus right now on the operator of this particular aircraft and the questions that are being asked of them as well. At this point, while there are so many questions, this, remember, is a chartered plane, a Learjet 45, which crashed while attempting to land at 8:45 this morning. The aircraft broke apart. You see the remnants Those pictures are on your screens too. There's nothing left. Only the tail of the plane is intact. The rest of it completely destroyed. And clearly there was a massive explosion. We've seen that in the CCTV footage as well. Now, the ATC did give clearance for landing, but right after they lost contact. In fact, there was no communication that came in even after they gave that clearance. This is the 8th Learjet incident. The DGCA, therefore, has ordered a probe, raising the key question about whether it was human error or technical failure.
Shortly after 8:45 a.m. on Wednesday, CCTV camera at a shop near Baramati airport captured an explosion. A chartered plane with Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister Ajit Pawar on board going up in flames. After the crash, the only part of the Learjet 45 that remained was the tail. Ajit Pawar and 4 others on the flight were killed in the accident. This was not the first time a Learjet had faced trouble. In fact, this marks the 8th reported incident involving these aircraft. In September 2023, a plane of the same make crashed in Mumbai. The aircraft had been cleared for touchdown but drifted during landing. The plane on which Ajit Pawar travelled was found 50 meters away from the runway. In the 2023 accident, the autopilot disengaged for 40 seconds before the crash. In the latest incident involving a 16-year-old Learjet, the aircraft broke apart on impact and caught fire. Only the tail escaped the fire. What caused the accident remains a mystery. The Learjet aircraft in the Baramati crash landing is owned by VSR Aviation. The company blamed low visibility for the mishap.
The aircraft was absolutely fit to the best of our knowledge. The DGCA is investigating the matter. We are there with the DGCA team and they will tell us. Primarily, it appears that there was low visibility.
The Directorate General of Civil Aviation has ordered a probe and the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau is investigating the tragedy.
These are all officers who had reached just half an hour back at VSR Ventures office to take a detailed understanding and report of what really had transpired, and they are right now inspecting the office premises. This is the AAIB team that we are being told who are now inspecting all the office premises of VSR Ventures.
Early reports indicate that the plane had received landing clearance from ATC, but the crew did not respond. Among many unanswered questions is why no mayday or distress call was issued by the pilot. With Shreya Chatterjee, Bureau Report, India Today.
Let me bring in Shreya Chatterjee, who's joining us live from Delhi, which is where the operator's office is based. It's here that the investigating officials also took forth a handful of documents to go through really the kind of licensing, the approvals that have been given for this company. Shreya, just give us details really of the scope of the investigation right now. Has a clean sheet been given to the operator, or there's still their role, the authorizations, is all of that still being looked into?
Well, Akshita, there's no clean sheet that's been given, because this is just the first day of the investigation, barely few hours from where the aircraft crash actually took place. So there's a protocol in place where the Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau, their officials visited the VRS Venture office where I'm standing right now. They were there for good 3 hours. They collected documents. This were related to the aircrafts that are owned by VRS. There are at least 17 of them. 7 of them are the Learjets, one of which crashed and led to that unfortunate demise of Deputy CM of Maharashtra, Ajit Pawar. And the maintenance documents, the log books, the medical reports of the pilots, all these things things have been collected and taken by the AIB team, which will also be now forensically analyzed, and then a report will be produced. Now, apart from what we've seen over here, there's also a second leg of the investigation that's to take place at Baramati, because what we do know that Baramati is an uncontrolled air field. So how was the operation there, whether all checks and protocols are in place or not, whether there was some issue, because remember the initial report was also suggesting that before the landing process, when they were asked that whether they can see the airfield, when the visibility was mentioned somewhere around 3,000 meter, the first call they said that they can't see the airfield. It's only after the second take about they say that yes, they can see, and before even a read back to the ATC, the aircraft doused in flames. So all these things are right now being looked at by the AIB. No clean chit, we can say, has been given.
Okay.
But the initial reports that are coming in suggest that the air operation, the validation that's required for an aircraft to operate, that was up to date so far as that aircraft was concerned.
So if you look at the paperwork, doesn't seem like there's any issue. You know, as far as the regulatory certification is concerned, that was fine for the plane. The pilots also licensed, their fitness certificates were done, very much valid. Just the paperwork itself doesn't look like there were any lapses, but too early to tell whether really the company, the operator, which is VSR, can be let off the hook right now. I'll also continue focusing really on the investigation, but just quickly cutting across to what Prime Minister Modi had said just a while ago when he was speaking in the national capital, his tribute to Ajit Pawar.
आज का दिन हमारे लिए एक बड़ा दुख लेकर भी आया है। आज सुबह ही महाराष्ट्र में दुखद विमान दुर्घटना हुई है। इस दुर्घटना ने महाराष्ट्र के उप मुख्यमंत्री अजीत पवार जी और कुछ साथियों को हमसे छीन लिया है। अजीत दादा ने महाराष्ट्र और देश के विकास में अपना बड़ा योगदान दिया है। विशेष रूप से गांवों के जीवन को बेहतर बनाने के लिए उन्होंने हमेशा आगे बढ़कर काम किया। मैं अजीत पवार जी के परिवार के प्रति संवेदना व्यक्त करता हूं। जिन साथियों को हमने इस हादसे में खोया है, इस पीड़ा की घड़ी में हम सभी उनके परिजनों के साथ हैं।
बहुत दुख की बात है और अभी भी इस विषय को डाइजेस्ट करना कि वो नहीं रहे, ये मानने के लिए मतलब बिल्कुल ना तो हम तैयार हैं, ना कोई भी अभी विश्वास कर सकता है कि इतना शॉकिंग न्यूज़ रहा है। सुबह से ही जब से इंसिडेंट हुआ है तब से ही डीजीसीए को और एआईबी को भी अलर्ट करके उनके ऑफिसर को भी यहाँ पे साइट पे भेजने के लिए बोल दिया है और जैसे ही वो आएंगे उनकी जांच की वो भी शुरू हो जाएगी और लोकल यहाँ के पुलिस को भी बता दिया कि साइट को सुरक्षित कॉर्डन ऑफ करें, फेंसिंग करें ताकि वहाँ पे जो भी इन्वेस्टिगेशन के लिए चाहिए होगा उस तरह की परिस्थिति रहे।
So right now, while the investigation is underway, there have been a couple of statements that kind of give a glimpse of what happened. For example, the government has also, this is the Ministry of Civil Aviation, that's given us a statement on exactly what has happened. We break that down for you, what the government said versus what doesn't add up. Now, the government clearly said that the plane was cleared to land on the runway at 8:43 this morning. So they say the ATC gave that clearance. What doesn't add up is why that clearance was given if there was low visibility in that area. So then obviously visibility, weather conditions were fine. In which case then there will be that question about whether this was an issue at all. Now also the government has categorically said that if 8:43 that clearance was given, 8:44 the very next minute the jet disappeared from the radar. Now we are to assume that explosion happened at about 45-46, but just before that already it had disappeared from the radar. So was there some sort of fatal technical glitch that led to this particular crash. The other detail that's emerged is that there was no readback of landing clearance given. Usually, when the ATC communicates that the clearance has been given for landing, there's a communication from the cockpit acknowledging that communication. Didn't happen. Why were the pilots silent to the ATC instruction despite the fact that they were attempting to land? There's a question being asked there as well. Now, the government also confirmed at this point that based on the information they had from the ATC, there was no mayday call made by the pilots, in which case, obviously, we are going to assume that nothing was wrong till the very last minute. Did the pilots fail to anticipate the crash? If it was a technical glitch, what went wrong that till the very last second they had no idea that this was going to happen? The plane actually crashed in the second landing attempt. If you see the tracker, which we'll tell you about in just a bit, the plane actually circles and then attempts a second time to land. Many suggested that this was because of poor visibility, but the ATC gave that clearance. So did the pilots then misread landing parameters? Is that why, if you look closely at what happened, the plane, in fact, inches towards the runway, veers off. The crash is about 100 meters from the runway at the Baramati airport. A lot that doesn't add up. Obviously, the investigation will reveal those details, but there's no definitive pointer here on whether it's a technical glitch, whether it's human error, or whether it was just poor weather conditions. I'll give you, however, a detailed report by India Today's Ankit Kumar of our OSINT team, where he explains those last few minutes, the exact crash site, what happened. He breaks that down for you.
Using open source aviation data as well as official statements, we are trying to reconstruct what happened in the final 7 moments at Baramati airfield. The Learjet aircraft, which had Maharashtra Deputy CM Ajit Pawar on board, crashed roughly at around 8:45 in the morning. Flight data shows that at around 8:38 Indian Standard Time, the aircraft tried to make the first landing. Now, because of visibility issues, it could not successfully complete the first landing. At around 8:38:45, the aircraft is seen in a go-around maneuver. So it goes back to the direction from which it was coming from. Now, the data suggests that at around 8:43, it again approaches towards the runway, but at the same time, it communicates to the ATC, which is a temporary ATC there. It communicates that it cannot see, the pilots cannot see the runway. Now, roughly at around 8:43, 20 seconds, again, it is seen approaching towards the runway. At this point, the pilots reportedly confirmed to the ATC that they can actually see the runway. And within few seconds, roughly at around 8:44 and 8:45, 50 meters away from this runway, the aircraft unfortunately crashed at this location. Another important thing to note here is that there is no permanent air traffic control at this airfield. There are 2 flying academies, flying training schools, which kind of take shifts in order to guide the pilots to make successful landing at Baramati airfield.
So the only details that we have really of what played out in those last few minutes is the information that's come in from the Ministry of Civil Aviation. And they've released a detailed minute-by-minute account of the sequence of events. It throws up a lot more questions of exactly what happened. Because if you look at the details that the Ministry of Civil Aviation has put out, they talk about how the ATC did give clearance to land. And so all of the claims by the operator that, this was because of poor weather conditions, this was because of poor visibility, all of that falls flat. The other aspect of it is that the Ministry of Civil Aviation says there was no readback clearance. Now, to explain that in layman terms, what that means is essentially when the ATC communicates something to the pilots acknowledge it. They give an affirmation that we have heard you, we are okay to land. That didn't happen. So that did raise a needle of suspicion for the ATC a little too late, because a minute later, the flight wasn't shown reflecting in the radar. And then, of course, there was that horrifying CCTV footage that emerged of the crash actually taking place, the massive explosion. What we're also showing you is the fact that there have been 5 lives lost in this plane crash. Not just Ajit Pawar, but several others, 2 pilots as well as his security detail. I'm going to cut across for a live update to Omkar Vable, who's currently at the Baramati hospital.
दादा अजित दादा मी मतदारसंघाचा अध्यक्ष पुणे कॅन्टोन्मेंट मतदारसंघाचा मेरा नाम नरेश यादव मैं पुणे कैंटोनमेंट विधानसभा मतदारसंघ
कितने लोग यहाँ पर पहुंचे हैं मतलब हम देख रहे हैं भीड़ तो
काफी लोग है काफी लोग सुबह से आ रहे हैं किसी ने बताया दादा को यहाँ रखा है समझ में नहीं आ रहा है क्या बोल रहे जीवन के 26 साल जिस व्यक्ति के साथ गुजारे 3-4 रोज पहले भी उनसे मिला था दादा के मुंह से निकल गया सुबह के वक्त मेरे हाथ पैर चल रहे तब तक लोग मतलब दादा हाथ जोड़ के ऐसा मत बोलिए भगवान आपको दीर्घायुष्य दे क्या पता था उनकी होनी जैसी बात बोलते वैसी हो जाएंगी।
बिल्कुल। तो एक बात इन्होंने कही कि इस महाराष्ट्र के राजनीति के ध्रुव तारा के रूप में अजीत पवार को देखा जा रहा था और एकच वादा अजीत दादा नाम से जो घोषणाएं यहाँ पर सुनाई दे रही है वो आज महाराष्ट्र भर में गूंजती नजर आ रही है।
अजीत दादा अमर रहे।
Okay, so that's Ritvik Balekar reporting for us from the Baramati hospital. A huge crowd that's gathered there. You won't believe the emotions running through Baramati. Just some of the images that our reporters have been sending us shows you the sea of grief across Baramati. They considered Ajit Pawar their own. He was a part of their family. He was essentially someone who they'd seen over the years evolve, not just as a politician, but someone who was a caretaker of Baramati. So emotions running high visibly in Baramati among NCP, actually among politicians cutting across party lines, because that's who Ajit Pawar really was. Someone who was extremely witty, someone who was close to so many politicians and had interacted with so many up close and personal in Maharashtra. We'll get you those tributes in just a bit, but I want you to take a look first at the report that leads to all of these questions of the mystery of this plane crash. It's clearly not a clear-cut answer of what led to the clash. Right now, there are so many questions that still loom on this crash. Take a look at this report.
A tragic morning for Baramati. A city nurtured by the Pawar family witnesses the untimely death of its benefactor, Maharashtra Deputy Chief Minister and NCP Chief Ajit Anantrao Pawar in a plane crash on Wednesday. The Learjet 45XR twin-engine aircraft crash-landed nearly 50 meters away from the runway of the local airport, killing all 5 on board. The sequence of events that led to the crash pose several questions. The aircraft first came in contact with Baramati ATC at 8:18 a.m. The aircraft's next call was when the plane was 30 nautical miles away from Baramati. They were advised to descend in at pilot's discretion. The crew inquired about the winds and visibility. They were informed that the winds were calm and visibility was around 3,000 meters. The aircraft reported on the final approach of runway 11, but the runway was not in sight to them. The plane turned around. After the go-around, the aircraft was asked about its position and the crew reported on final approach of runway 11. The crew was asked to report if the runway was in sight. The crew initially replied, and I quote, "Runway is currently not in sight. We'll call when runway is in sight," unquote. After a few seconds, the crew reported that the runway was in sight. The aircraft was cleared to land on runway 11 at 8:43 a.m. IST. However, they did not give a read back of the landing clearance. Next, the ATC saw flames around the threshold of runway 11 at 8:44 a.m. IST. There was no mayday or any kind of distress call by the pilot to ATC before the crash, which has now added to the mystery behind the crash. Incidentally, Baramati is an uncontrolled airfield. Traffic information is provided by the instructors and pilots from the flying training organizations at Baramati who man the ATC. The sequence of events released by the government is based on the info given by the persons handling the ATC when the crash took place. Soon after the crash, emergency services were rushed to the site. The wreckage of the aircraft was located on the left side of runway 11. The Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau has now taken over the investigation. The mystery over why and how the plane crash landed still remains unsolved. Bureau Report, India Today.
Let's bring in Ritwik Balekar, who's joining us live from outside the Baramati hospital, where anytime now Ajit Pawar's mortal remains will be moved from the hospital. His family members will be accompanying the mortal remains as well. But we can see the huge crowds, Ritwik, that have gathered around you. Supporters, followers of Ajit Pawar coming together there to pay their last respects.
Absolutely, I'm standing amidst a sea of people which have gathered from across Maharashtra to pay their final, tribute and respects to Ajit Pawar, their beloved leader. Right now, I'm standing in front of a mortuary of Ahilya Devi Hospital, where the mortal remains of Ajit Pawar has been kept, and what we've learned is that his younger son, Jai Pawar, has reached here, and he is looking after all the preparations, because from here we can also see in the visuals the ambulance has been decorated to bid adieu to final respect to Ajit Pawar. From here the mortal remains of Ajit Pawar will be taken to Vidya Pratishthan ground, which is just 1.5 kilometers from here, and also huge preparations for his final rites and Antim Darshan are underway there. Sharad Pawar himself visited that place. Also, just a while ago, CM Devendra Fadnavis, Deputy CM Eknath Shinde, and also Maharashtra Governor Devrat, they all were sitting here consoling Sunitra Pawar, the wife of Ajit Pawar. Also, Supriya Sure joined in later, and she had a brief discussion with all the senior leaders.
Okay.
And what we've been told is that after the Antim Darshan at the ground, which will be till late night, in the morning at 9 a.m. a procession will commence from Vidya Pratishthan ground, which will be continued till Katewadi village, where Ajit Pawar family resides, and the final rites would conclude there by 11 a.m. tomorrow.
All right, Ritwik, thanks for those details. I'm slipping into a short break. We'll be right back. On the other side, we'll get you a tribute from the Antim Darshan for the public to pay their last respects in Baramati overnight. There's a sea of supporters who have gathered outside the Baramati hospital to pay tributes. Ajit Pawar's family has also reached the hospital. They're waiting for all the formalities to be concluded, and then his mortal remains will be moved from the hospital. The funeral procession is tomorrow at 9 a.m. So anytime now, the mortal remains will be taken from the hospital to the ground, where for the public to come and pay their last tributes. The mortal remains of Ajit Pawar will be kept overnight, and then at 9 a.m. is when the funeral procession will begin. And at 11 a.m. is when you will see the last rites taking place in Baramati. I'll bring in Abhijit Karande for more details. He's joining us live from Baramati. Abhijit, a sea of grief in Baramati. It's been gripped by shock whilst people still in Baramati process what's happened to Ajit Pawar. But we understand all preparations have been made for a funeral tomorrow, which is going to see huge crowds.
Right now I'm at Vidya Pratishthan, where Ajit Pawar's mortal will be bring for Antim Darshan. We can see those two mandaps where Ajit Pawar's mortal will be placed, and people can take his final or Antim Darshan, and then they will proceed. So at least until 10 p.m. People from Baramati and across the state who are coming to the Vidya Pratishthan to take Antim Darshan of Ajit Pawar will be able to pay their respect to their leader. As of now, we can on the other side we can see those dumpers and those JCBs also there, which are preparing for the final rites, which will happen tomorrow at 11 a.m. Mostly union leaders from the BJP also coming to the Baramati to pay their respect to the leader Ajit Pawar. And on the other side, we can see the whole preparations are going on in full swing. Anytime soon, Ajit Pawar's mortal will be bring here from the medical college, where right now they are examining. Ajit Pawar's colleague and Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Devendra Fadnavis, and Deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Eknath Shinde, and Governor of Maharashtra also in Baramati.
Abhijit, is there any confirmation on whether the Prime Minister and Home Minister Amit Shah will also be there for the funeral? There are some reports that suggest that the Prime Minister will be making his way to Baramati tomorrow. Any confirmation on that?
So there is a huge buzz that Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah will come to this, come to take final darshan of Ajit Pawar, and they will attend the final rites of Ajit Pawar. Even Prime Minister Narendra Modi have spoken to Sharad Pawar in the early morning and taken and tried to console him and his family also. But there is not an official confirmation as of now. No official tour has been declared by the state government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi or Home Minister Amit Shah. But except that, party leaders across the state and the center, they will come to pay their respect, as we know that Sharad Pawar is a national figure and they have very cordial relations with all party leaders, and this is a very big loss of Pawar family as well as NCP also, as well as state also. So they will definitely come to pay their final respect. And as we see that on alongside Mandap, there are across party lines, all the state leaders of NCP, all the leaders from the Shiv Sena and other parties, they have come there to pay their final respect. So this is a huge loss of Baramati.
Chief Minister has died in an air crash in Baramati. We thought we would use this occasion to pay a tribute, but also remember Ajit Pawar in his various facets. He was a controversial figure, but he was an important figure in the politics of Maharashtra for 3 decades. And who better to join me on this show than Sahil Joshi, my colleague in Mumbai, managing editor and the Mumbai bureau chief. Thanks very much, Sahil, for joining us on this sad day. I'm reminded, Sahil, of when you and I went and met Ajit Pawar during the 2024 Lok Sabha election at 5:30 a.m. or 6 a.m. in the morning. We were very tired, but he was fresh and already meeting people. What are your memories of Ajit Pawar, particularly of that meeting where for the first time, actually, he spoke to a national channel in Hindi?
Well, in fact, I would like to say that that was the first time he spoke to any channel about the split happened in NCP and why did he do what he did, which nobody ever thought that he will ask his uncle under whose umbrella he actually grew as a political leader, and he always remained in his shadow despite having his own image in Maharashtra's politics, and that was the first time he actually revealed a lot of things. And most importantly, I think that he doesn't like journalists. That's very clear. He speaks to journalists as somebody as a professional. He on need to know basis. That was the first time I could see that he wanted to talk about a lot of things. Somewhere he had this in mind that he was mistaken. He was not given his due in politics, and that's what he wanted to reveal. He wanted to say what he did. He was always made kind of a scapegoat in politics. So he had a lot of things to talk about, and he said it the way he could. He was not very good with words, though, and that is the reason why a lot of times he got himself into some kind of a controversy. The way he spoke before 2014 when he was being charged for 70,000 crore irrigation scam in Maharashtra by the BJP leaders. He was hounded by the opposition parties, made kind of a face of the whole corruption happening in Maharashtra at that particular time. After Adarsh, actually, that was the biggest scam which was ever talked about. At the same time, he felt that somewhere his party did not stand up for him. somewhere he thought that he's been made a kind of a scapegoat, and that's what that grudge he always had in his mind, and that's why he sort of decided to stay away from journalists at that time. And it felt that for the first time he was a bit relaxed. He could speak his mind. In fact, Rajdeep, if you remember, he tried to explain to us, that why he had to do what he did, and why the political leaders are taking such kind of abrupt decisions which are completely opposite of the ideology they belonged. He tried to put it on the people, that because the people are not giving a particular mandate to people, to any political party, and that's why such kind of alliances had to be done. Is the thing which he tried to say. But most importantly, Rajdeep, in fact, if you remember,
Right.
a day before, he had a dinner at... Yeah.
Harshvardhan. No, I remember we had a dinner at Harshvardhan Patil, who was his big opponent in the Baramati area. And they also never saw eye to eye. I think Ajit Pawar was very insecure about anyone who tried to challenge him in Baramati. He saw himself as the big boss of Baramati. But I remember at that dinner, again, he was very, very, he seemed much more relaxed. I recall him talking about cricket. I never knew that Ajit Pawar used to watch cricket, he said very often. He also liked old Hindi film music. And I saw another part to him, because generally, as you said, he didn't like journalists. He was very blunt and forthright in his comments, and he didn't like small talk. Sahil, I think the last time I spoke to Ajit Pawar was exactly about 2 weeks ago, when just before the municipal corporation elections. And with politicians, sometimes you have to warm them up and ask them some soft questions. Ajit Pawar didn't like all those soft questions. He wanted to get straight to the point. And when I asked him about whether there was a possibility of the Pawars coming together now that they were fighting Pune together, the Pune municipal elections, he said, look, this is what the workers want, and we will see where this goes. But when I persisted, he said very interestingly, all this talk of reunion, you should not ask me, you ask Sharad Rao and you ask Narendra Modi ji. So I think Ajit Pawar was a complex character. He could be at one level very friendly, very relaxed, and he could also be very direct and forthright, even rude at times to you. He could, he found himself in several controversies. You mentioned the irrigation scam, and yet you met a number of officials in Mantralaya who said he was a very efficient administrator, and he understood every department that he had handled very, very well. Even the finance department, if you speak to officials, they said if you put a file on Ajit Pawar's table, he would make sure that the file was cleared by the end of the day. So Ajit Pawar, for his critics, he was seen as someone who was part of this corrupted political culture of Maharashtra. But at the same time, if you speak to many other politicians, they said he was a very hard worker. He was always connected to his people. As I said, 6 a.m. in the morning, if you have 100, 200 people outside your house and he's meeting each one of them, knows them by first name, that means he was connected to the people of Baramati, and he had no national ambitions, which I thought was almost his strength and his weakness. He didn't want to make NCP into some national party. He wanted the chief ministership of Maharashtra, and he admitted it. What I liked was that he was not pretending, nahi, mujhe koi interest nahi hai. He wanted to be chief minister. And when I had asked him, you remember in the conclave, he said, nahi, ab to itni baar deputy chief minister ban gaya hu, gaadi kaise aage jayegi? I am waiting for my car to go ahead. Ek din meri gaadi aage jayegi. So I thought that was quite, he was quite candid in that sense. What you saw is what you got. He did not pretend to be some political saint or sadhu. But you mentioned one thing, Sahil, and I wanted to ask you. You said he tried to come out of Sharad Pawar's shadow. For the first, from 1990 to 2023, he was almost managing Maharashtra for Sharad Pawar, while Sharad Pawar was focusing on Delhi. Do you believe that he had started coming out of Sharad Pawar's shadow by the end? Was he able to really ever do that?
Well, in NCP, it was very clear that what was whose role. Sharad Pawar, being a patriarch and the president of the party, he was the decision maker, and that role was accepted by everyone. Whereas Ajit Pawar, he started actually handling Maharashtra much later, because in 1999, it was Chhagan Bhujbal who was the second biggest, topmost leader after Sharad Pawar, and that is how Chhagan Bhujbal was handling. He was given the charge of a party in Maharashtra. At the same time, he was a deputy chief minister of Maharashtra as well. Ajit Pawar started calling shots after he became quite popular among the MLAs. And, he was more available here in Maharashtra because Sharad Pawar was much busy in the national politics. But, the biggest drawback what he could see at that time was that he never had to make a political decisions, because he was more like a bureaucrat. He was more like an administrator. He liked his role as an administrator. He liked his role as somebody who could sit in cabinet meetings, call the bureaucrats around, be a minister in Pune, who can, in Maharashtra, there is a term called guardian minister. You can be a guardian minister of a particular district, and then you can decide where the development fund will go in that particular district. So he enjoyed his position as a guardian minister of Pune, so that he could actually make an area of influence for himself. And he started enjoying it more in a way that Sharad Pawar was busy in the national politics, and he could decide his things at the local level. But he never took the political decisions, and that was left to Sharad Pawar himself. After 2023, when he actually became the president of the party, the role which he wanted for a very long time, the role that he always looked forward to, that he will be the one who will decide the final authority in the party, then he realized
दादा गेले तर अजूनही
in Baramati. We thought we would use this occasion to pay a tribute, but also
the Antim Darshan for the public to pay their last respects in Baramati overnight. There's a sea of supporters who have gathered outside the Baramati hospital to pay tributes. Ajit Pawar's family has also reached the hospital. They're waiting for all the formalities to be concluded, and then his mortal remains will be moved from the hospital. The funeral procession is tomorrow at 9 a.m. So anytime now, the mortal remains will be taken from the hospital to the ground, where for the public to come and pay their last tributes, the mortal remains of Ajit Pawar will be kept overnight. And then at 9 a.m. is when the funeral procession will begin. And at 11 a.m. is when you will see the last rites taking place in Baramati. I'll bring in Abhijit Karande for more details. He's joining us live from Baramati. Abhijit, a sea of grief in Baramati. It's been gripped by shock whilst people still in Baramati process what's happened to Ajit Pawar. But we understand all preparations have been made for a funeral tomorrow, which is going to see huge crowds.
Right now I'm at Vidya Pratishthan, where Ajit Pawar's mortal will be bring for Antim Darshan. We can see those two mandaps where Ajit Pawar's mortal will be placed, and people can take his final or Antim Darshan, and then they will proceed. So at least until 10 p.m. People from Baramati and across the state who are coming to the Vidya Pratishthan to take Antim Darshan of Ajit Pawar will be able to pay their respect to their leader. As of now, we can on the other side we can see those dumpers and those JCBs also there, which are preparing for the final rites, which will happen tomorrow at 11 a.m. mostly union leaders from the BJP also coming to the Baramati to pay their respect to the leader Ajit Pawar. And on the other side, we can see the whole preparations are going on in full swing. Anytime soon, Ajit Pawar's mortal will be bring here from the medical college where right now they are examining. Ajit Pawar's colleague and Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Devendra Fadnavis, and Deputy Chief Minister of Maharashtra, Eknath Shinde, and Governor of Maharashtra also in Baramati.
Abhijit, is there any confirmation on whether the Prime Minister and Home Minister Amit Shah will also be there for the funeral? There are some reports that suggest that the Prime Minister will be making his way to Baramati tomorrow. Any confirmation on that?
So there is a huge buzz that Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Home Minister Amit Shah will come to this, come to take final darshan of Ajit Pawar, and they will attend the final rites of Ajit Pawar. Even Prime Minister Narendra Modi have spoken to Sharad Pawar in the early morning and taken and tried to console him and his family also. But there is not an official confirmation as of now. No official tour has been declared by the state government of Prime Minister Narendra Modi or Home Minister Amit Shah. But except that, party leaders across the state and the center, they will come to pay their respect, as we know that Sharad Pawar is a national figure and they have very cordial relations with all party leaders, and this is a very big loss of Pawar family as well as NCP also, as well as state also. So they will definitely come to pay their final respect. And as we see that on alongside Mandap, there are across party lines, all the state leaders of NCP, all the leaders from the Shiv Sena and other parties, they have come there to pay their final respect. So this is a huge loss of Baramati, huge loss of people of Baramati, huge loss of a state, and as well as Pawar family also, because there is a big question mark. Who will lead the NCP after Ajit Pawar?
Okay, Abhijit continues to get us those updates, and the family members are currently in Baramati. For them, you can only imagine what a